woke up on cloud 9-0.
Okay,
I stole that from Liberty.
All Emily's good stuff. Just assume she stole it from somebody else.
At least I am here.
Yeah. Can I tell you the difference between Liberty football and Joe Yock? Liberty football finds success. They keep grinding. They keep showing up to work every day. Joe Yacht gets a couple of home loan deals, and he's like, 3-day weekend for me. Guess I won't be at the podcast.
Hey, guys.
I'm
not going to make it. Who knows? No, I think he's getting some family time. However, we do have a great guest coming up on the show. She is a CUSA champion, the first ever CUSA champion here on Liberty's campus. It's Rachel DeRuby in women's soccer who clinched that this past weekend, so we'll chat with her in just a moment. But
so much to talk about today.
So much to talk about. I can't believe hoop season is tipping off tonight. Women play at 3, men play at 7. So that'll be exciting. Emily Austin, Matt Warner, and Paul Nasgan are all on the call.
Dream team.
Wait a second. We should have asked Naz to come on the show.
He has a real job, I think.
I know.
So he's not always available.
When I grow up, I want to have a real job.
We do too.
Obviously, football has secured home field advantage for hosting the CUSA Championship, which will be on Friday, December 1st. You can get tickets to that now, right?
This week you can get tickets to that December 1st. That's going to be a Friday. It's a Friday. So check that out. And, of course, Liberty's finally ranked.
That's right. Number 25.
We've been begging for it. We've been asking for it. AP Top 25. Liberty comes in at 25th now in the country, so only up from here. Keep on winning.
We'll also talk about what has made Coach Chadwell a little upset following this victory, and Quentin Cooley still just a bowling ball. CUSA games to recap and look ahead to, and then we will preview an in-state, I guess it's kind of an in-state rivalry, I guess you can say, with ODU coming to the Mountain.
Yep, it is.
So Old Dominion. We are finally back on the call for that this weekend,
we'll be calling Old Dominion, hopefully calling the UMass game as well for football. So
that will be fun. Also, as we said, women's soccer got that CUSA championship. Field hockey dropped the Big East championship, so we'll touch on all of that. But first, Matt, what's your takeaway from this victory over La Tech here on Saturday?
56-30. This is the best the offense has looked all season long.
Right.
I mean, they were doing whatever they wanted. You look at the numbers. Salter threw for 297, 4 touchdowns. Cooley goes for 179 and 2 touchdowns. You had Bedgood involved. You had even Noah Frith getting a touchdown. You saw E.J. Smoot come back and make a couple of plays, so that's good to get him back in the fold. Like, whatever they wanted to do, like, you got James Joyner got in the end zone. Whatever they wanted to do offensively, the only thing that stopped them was the one fumble on their second possession that was kind of self-inflicted. But they did whatever they wanted. So that's encouraging. And I have to think now the race for Conference USA Player of the Year, it's a 2-man race, and it's Caden Salter and Quentin Cooley. Like, those are the 2 guys. Like, take your pick. Who do you want to choose between them? Those have to be the 2 guys, in my mind, the only 2 at this point that are up for Conference USA Player of the Year. Cooley now 10th in the nation in rushing yards, averaging over 6 yards per carry.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Salter, we've been tracking the 40 total touchdowns responsible for is the record from Malik Willis a couple of years back. Salter now is responsible for 30 total touchdowns. Still has potentially 5 more games to get to past 40. And he's also, maybe more importantly, 23 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, the ratio is pretty good.
He has been really good taking care of the football.
You know what I just thought? You know how Joe has said that we should do the Uno shuffle, for our fantasy teams? We'll get to those standings, a little bit later. But what if we just gave him Salter? That probably still wouldn't get him back in the race. You mentioned 5 games to play for the Flames, which just seems crazy.
It's like a ton this time of year.
A lot of football to be played. One of the questions going into the postgame press conference that Jamie was asked was, do this team still have something to play for? They made history going 9-0, and he's like, we still need to win a conference championship. No one has gone 10-0, 11-0, 12-0. So there's still a lot to be played for in these games. There's obviously a championship to win, a bowl game to win. So you hope that these guys don't get complacent with this 9-0 record.
And you're like, you sense it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can smell the finish line, and you see like a perfect season is out there. It's not just well, like when we were 6 games in and you saw the numbers of, Liberty, the highest chance to go undefeated the rest of no, the end is in sight.
Right.
You're seeing it now, and that itself should be enough motivation to finish strong. In fact, I went and checked. ESPN has Liberty and Florida State. They're tied for having basically the highest chance to finish undefeated in the nation. And so, so that's out there. And this week against Old Dominion.
Wait, does that include like CFP?
No, that's regular season.
That's just regular season play. Okay.
But this week, Old Dominion, this is probably, in my mind, the biggest hurdle left. Maybe even more so than the conference championship game.
Ooh,
the
we're
biggest
not even
hurdle,
at bold predictions
the biggest hurdle
yet,
to clear. I think this is going to be a real test. This is going to be a real test this week. So you talk about, you hope they're locked in. They better be, because ODU is certainly good enough to come in here and beat Liberty and spoil what could be the perfect season.
You were just mentioning all those numbers from Caden Salter. You know what I thought was interesting? Noah Frith mentioned after the game, this is a different K-Salt than I've ever seen. His preparation, the way he's watching film and understanding these defenses, it's been obviously showing up on the field. But another note I want to make, rushing for 300 yards the Flames have for the 3rd straight week. Our Todd Wetmore just sent us an email. We added this to our game notes. Oh, thanks, Todd. Liberty is one of 11 teams in the country that have started the same 5 offensive linemen for each game in 2023. Which is so, none of this would have been possible without that builder. I'm going to put my fingers in my belt.
That's
I'm not going to Joe. I'm not going to, take Joe's spotlight there.
Again, stealing good material. Once again.
Yeah, I got to start being a little bit more creative. But when you look at this offensive line, that's, I feel like, where you got to give most, if not all, the credit to, that they've been able to rush the ball, and Caden Salter has had the confidence in the pocket or whatever he's doing to put up those numbers. You have to give that credit to the offensive line.
Liberty is now less than 1 yard per game behind Air Force for the top rushing offense in the nation. So Liberty's still second, but just less than a yard away from being the top rushing team in the country. You're right. Coach Sturkin, that O-line, they've been monsters up front. And Quentin Cooley has been an absolute animal. You just don't lose yards. You just don't lose. There's not those negative plays in the run game. Think about it.
Yeah.
How often does Liberty run on first down and it's up 2nd and 13? Never. He's always getting positive yards. And the guys behind him did a good job. Obviously, we've talked about Aaron Bedgood, how valuable he's been. But Quentin Cooley has been even, way better, I think, than we even thought. And we thought he'd be good. But he has been dominant, a workhorse. And behind this O-line and how consistent they've been, this is a scary offense right now. Yeah. It's also a scary defense, but maybe not for a different kind of scary.
We'll talk about that in just one moment. Quentin Cooley, he mentioned after the game just having that patience to find the holes, because those weren't, he didn't have those holes early in the game, and just having that patience of understanding where to go and when to go, and just the coaching.
Just wear you down.
Right.
It's not always the first run or the second run or the third run, but they just wear you down throughout a game.
And that's a notch, or, to the coaching staff committing to the run. Hey, when you stop us, we got the guys that are going to still bring it to you later in the game. So, 300 yards for 3 straight weeks is just incredible. Coach Chadwell said, guys just bounce off Quentin Cooley, which is so true. The bowling ball, once he starts going downhill, he can't stop.
And speaking of that, too, Liberty now second in the nation in time of possession.
That's
so
the thing.
It goes hand in hand.
Right. If the other team doesn't have the ball, then it's hard for them to beat the Flames. However, when the other team does get the ball, something that Coach Chadwell mentioned after the game is, their other team is going to make plays, right? Sure. But they can't. They're going to score touchdowns here and there, but they can't score touchdowns in 2 minutes.
Right.
What have you seen from this defense that is maybe put that level of concern a little bit higher than weeks past?
It all goes back to what we've been talking about for probably 4 or 5 weeks now, which is the pass rush just isn't there. Mm-hmm. And so you're giving guys time in the pocket. So Hank Bachmeier throws for 304 yards. That's the 3rd straight week now Liberty has given up 300 yards or more through the air. They hadn't given that up once in the first 6 games. The last 3, all 3, they've gone over 300. And it's just not being able to get there and create that pressure. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about the back end of the defense. They've done a great job. Your Kobe Singletons, your Brylan Greens, all those guys. Linebackers, I think we've been pleasantly surprised. Tyron Dupree's been great. Joe Carter has really come on in the last few weeks. He's been good. And you know there's some talent on that D-line, and some of it's young. But, man, just the not being able to hurry that quarterback, not being able to speed him up, it makes him comfortable back there. And we've seen 3 pretty good quarterbacks here these last 3 weeks, so give them some credit. But it's been too easy for them at times in these games. And Jamie Chadwell, that along with some penalties and things, he said, it's going to come back to bite us. If we don't figure some of this stuff out, if we don't improve and make some corrections, like sooner or later, it's going to come back to bite us because you can't count on your offense to score 56 every week. You can't count on them to play a near perfect game out there. You just can't. At some point, they're going to hit some bumps, as well, and your defense has to be there to kind of pick them up once in a while. And that is the concern moving forward.
Rachel DeRuby is on the show in just a moment. We'll hear what it feels like knowing that clock is ticking down and you're about to win a CUSA championship. Yeah. So we'll get to that in just a moment. We'll also preview some hoops. Hoops are starting tonight, but, sticking with that defense, another thing that Coach Chadwell said after the game is, when we're in situations defensively like we were, I need guys to step up on the field. As a coach, I can sit there and encourage you and yell at you, do what I need to do, but I need a leader out there on the field to be able to bring this team together and play as a team and not those individual stats that they're looking for at times. Who is that guy that can step up? Because I feel like when you look at the line, Kendi Charles is one of the captains. You have Tyron Dupree. But I just don't feel like those are like the vocals, rah-rah guys that we saw in Scruggs last year.
Right.
Can you imagine Scruggs on this defense? I mean, it would be perfect. But who is that leader that the Flames are looking for defensively in those situations?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And if Chadwell isn't sure, I'm certainly not.
Matt Warner,
I'm certainly not.
People are coming to the Flame Central this is the Flame Central podcast. Powered by Alcova Mortgage.
Joe's going to be
wow, yeah, it's almost like there's no way anyone's still listening at this point.
No, that's a good point because a lot of those guys you talk about, Tyron Dupree, kind of a soft-spoken, guy. Kendi, a little bit that way. So yeah, it's guys that aren't just that natural big personality like the general Javon Scruggs was, and that is. You lost his production this year. You certainly lost his voice more than anything. So who can be that guy? I mean, I feel like you hope a Brylan Green can be that guy.
Quentin Reese.
Those are a couple of guys that Scruggs even mentioned when he was done here as being like, these are the guys that I've kind of passed the mantle on to and been like, you're the next people to step in. So, yeah, you hope those guys can kind of be that. But, boy, yeah, they're hanging on right now. And you don't want to nitpick, right? Everyone wants to celebrate. You're 9-0. You've all these accolades and stuff like that. But as a coach, Jamie Chadwell and those guys in that building, they're looking at this, being like, man, if we don't fix this, all the good things we've done so far, that could be ruined. But you certainly can drop a game that you shouldn't if we continue with some of these things. And you hope they can hang on, and you just hope offensively that you're able to keep racking up the points, and maybe you just win a bunch of shootouts.
But you're right. You can't rely on the offense putting up that many points, but it is good to see almost 600 total yards of offense. Coach Chadwell did mention after the game that the Flames did a few foolish things that he's embarrassed about as a head coach.
10 penalties.
Yeah, and really what I see from Coach in these press conferences after the game is he's taking all the accountability from like the penalty side. Like I have to have that discipline for my team, which is good that you want to see that from the head coach, but you also want to see that from the players taking accountability and ownership because they're the ones obviously making those penalties. What do you think are some of the penalties that are embarrassing Coach Chadwell that they need to get control of moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm trying to think back of what all the penalties were, but like I know obviously we've had some where guys have been chirping a little bit, going back to Western Kentucky, that late one on Caden Salter. Caden probably got away with it. He gave the little boy sign there, to a guy on the sideline. I don't think the official saw it. That could have been an easy taunting flag if they had seen that. So there's some of those kind of things that you're like, this isn't helping. And they're completely unnecessary. There's nothing about you. You live with an effort play, right? You live with, I think it was Gray Carroll just a little late getting to the quarterback, gave him a shove. You don't want to see it. You want him to be aware enough to stop. But that's just pure effort. A guy, when the pass rush hasn't been there, trying as hard as he can to get there, he was a little late. Some of those you can understand. It's some of those other penalties where it's just after the play, too much talking. Those are the ones where you just can't have that. Again, you talk about sooner or later things will come back to bite you. Those are the kind of things that can derail a drive if you're on offense.
Right.
Or give the opposition new life when maybe they're in a 3rd and long or about to punt. So, those are the things you have to clean up. Just you're good enough to win without any of that stuff.
Right.
So don't let that be the reason that something goes sideways.
So we know that it's Thanksgiving time, which you know what that means. It's pie. You know, people eat a lot of pie.
I do.
And I've been saying it week in and week out on the Flame Central podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage. I'm about to go home and bake some humble pie for Kane Salter.
No, why are you saying?
I love the swag. I get fired up on this, but like that again, you did it again, Caden. Are you not listening?
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is
we're
either.
pretty confident you are not the voice in his ear.
Matt,
you
I just
need to be
can't.
careful.
You need to be careful,
and
you know?
and
I love the swag. I love the confidence, but I just... You need to run on the other side of the field. You cannot be over by the other team.
It does always seem
when
like he
you
goes
are
out of
running out of
bounds
bounds on the visitor side, you just can't help yourself. And you know, I was a lot like Kane Salter when I was an athlete.
Still
but,
a lot of that.
A lot of chirping. So stay humble. Eat some humble pie.
A couple other notes though, real fast. ESPN now ranks on their power index. They have Liberty as the 14th most efficient offense in the nation.
Wow.
So really impressive stuff there. And then also, I was told that was, I think, the 6th largest crowd in Liberty history.
Yeah.
So great homecoming crowd, great atmosphere, great seeing so many people come back. We had a bunch of the guys from the original 1973 Liberty football team that we brought in on Friday and shot some interviews with for a story that'll be coming out soon. And great catching up with them. I know they had a big football banquet Friday night with all the football alums that came back. So cool to see a lot of those guys, to have them honored and bring them back here to the mountain. And they got to see a fun game too.
Yeah, for sure. If you haven't seen some of these Flame Central stories that we've done, you can go to, what's our website? LibertyFlameCentral.com. So you can catch up on those stories. There's a search bar, so you can look at those. We're actually going to Greenville tomorrow to catch up with Willie Corn's dad, doing a story on him, and Greg Mosley, who scored the game-winning touchdown in the first ever Liberty broadcast. So we'll catch up with him. He's actually at North Greenville University. He's been the volleyball coach.
Which is where
Coach Chadwell had his head coaching first gig. So we'll get some, shots of those fields and catch up with those guys. It's so fun to hear those stories from like the old days when they were practicing out there.
So many stories about Treasure Island. And like they're telling us like the backups didn't have enough equipment for him. So like one guy would come out, he'd take off his helmet, hand it to the guy that was going in for him.
I mean,
like
Caden Salter would fit in, not knowing where his helmet is.
Should have done that one game. But unbelievable to hear the stories of where this program is coming. That actually reminds me, I'm glad you brought that up. That reminded me, I was watching or tracking Sam Houston State, who got their first win.
For Kennesaw
They
State.
had to come back late in that game. So good for them. But as I'm watching that, and they were down at that point, and I was talking to somebody, I'm like, if they lose this game, they probably won't win a game this season. And to go 0-for in your first FBS season, I'm like, again, Liberty fans, do not take for granted what you have seen here.
Yeah.
Liberty is the exception. They moved to the FBS and did not skip a beat. First season, Turner Gill, they got to 6 wins. Hugh Freeze comes in, they're bowling every year. You're in the top 25 now, 3 of the last 4 years. What's it been, 6 years in the FBS? I think?
Yeah.
And you've been in the top 25 3 times?
Right.
Like, Liberty is not the norm.
Right.
So don't take for granted what we've seen here. So much credit due Turner Gill and his staff for laying the foundation. Obviously, Hugh Freeze for taking it to another level. And now Jamie Chadwell for taking it to an even higher level this season. So don't take for granted what you have here. Celebrate the 9-0, but also realize it's not that long ago they were on Treasure Island. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that long ago.
Crazy.
So be grateful, be thankful for what they've been able to do, and give this staff and the previous staffs so much credit, and Ian McCaw certainly for bringing those, getting these staffs here, for what they've been able to do at Liberty. It is a special story, and probably nationally, definitely nationally, does not get the attention it deserves based on how far they have come in such a short amount of time. It's unbelievable. Our director, Ken Toast, also did the decades pieces that we should start rolling out in the next week, at the banquet Friday night. Yeah, and it's starting from, the early days all the way up until now. So we'll have those coming your way on Flame Central as well. So be sure to check those out. Okay, before we get to this, Rachel DeRuby. Yeah. Something that we've been also monitoring is the New Year's 6 mix, bowl possibilities. Yeah. Well,
Air Force is somebody that needed to lose.
They did.
They did.
They did.
Tulane, unfortunately,
Boy,
we
there's
do
a
need
lot
them
of
to
people
win,
pulling
but
for East Carolina on Saturday. Tulane barely squeaked it out.
13-10, I think, was the final, and that's a really, really close game. So you do need Tulane to lose.
Yeah.
So I guess, there's
We're
still
all,
still a chance. I think Liberty's 5th or 4th on that list.
They're going to need help.
Maybe they're going to need a lot of help.
We're going to need help.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
They're going to need a lot of
help.
help.
Keep winning and then hope everybody else beats up on each other.
That's all. That's the only thing you can control right now is to keep winning.
But the bottom line is even if you don't,
you're
with
still
every
gonna get it
win,
legit.
you're getting a better and better bowl matchup, and that's exciting.
Right. Okay, so we will preview ODU after we get to this interview. We'll also look at some of the other sports and what they're doing around campus. And then Matt is going to give you some things to look ahead for the men's basketball season. But right now, let's go to this conversation with Rachel DeRuby. We have a CUSA champion on set. Rachel DeRuby brought some hardware. Check that out. This thing, by the way, Matt, is...
You did not carry that because it is really heavy.
Yes, it is.
Stand up real quick, Rachel, so we can see. This thing is...
It's massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
If you need to do... you can actually get a workout with this. I don't know if Coach would... do some squats.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks ago, we released your My Moment. We do this My Moment segment where we ask a Liberty athlete their favorite moment in a Liberty uniform. Yeah. Yours was last season, the season opener, and you scored the first goal of the season. I have a feeling that moment has changed since that game.
I actually thought about that in the after the game. I was like, wow, I wish they would have asked me this after this game.
Now's your chance. Now we're asking. Yeah.
So now your chance. What is your favorite moment in a Liberty uniform? Go.
Wow, funny you asked, but I would say probably this last game, or honestly the whole tournament as a whole, because it was just a really big tournament for me to have the first PK in that first game and the other goal that I scored, and then to have that corner to Sadie. Me and Bridie were actually talking because she usually takes the corners from that side, and she had a feeling. She was like, "Why don't you take it this time?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm feeling good about it."
Wait, so hold up, so at the moment, it's time, and she's just like, "Hey, no, you first, you go ahead." She
said she had a feeling, so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go too." So I went, and sure enough, Sadie put it in. And
wow.
So, okay, hold on. Stop. No, I'm gonna focus on this a little bit because this is different than I think a lot of sports. It wouldn't be I don't think Kyle Rode is going to Colin Porter hey, I know what Coach McKay normally has us do, but why don't we just do something else? Does that happen? Is Lang whoa, hey guys, whoa, what's going on here?
No, well, I mean, we interchange sometimes, but usually if somebody's gonna play the big ball in, it's more than likely gonna be Bridie. But I mean, I had been playing some of the short corners, and I was used to being on the ball, so I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go for it. I'll serve it in. It wasn't showing us the short corner, so yeah. And then it worked out, and then not once but twice. So
wow, if I was Lang, I'd just be I'm just pushing all the right buttons.
I actually thought this through all week before practice.
That's incredible. So Bridie really cool. Just had a hunch.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Wow.
That's awesome. Talk to me about just this team. This entire season has been so awesome for you guys. If you had one word to describe this team, what would it be?
This is going to sound cheesy, but I'd say family, really. Yeah. Because we just play for each other. We're able to call each other out when we're not doing what's expected, but we're also able to encourage each other like nobody else can. So I would just say, yeah, that.
And you got Annie. Annie, remember, we had a couple weeks ago Ava Goodman on, right? And she told us about the pregame and all this and that.
That was Ivy Garner we had on.
Ivy Garner. Why you got me messed up last time on? You said
sometimes it's on me.
We had Ivy, and she was telling us about Annie is the hype machine for this team. So how was? We just got a report back. The fans need to know how was she getting you guys prepared for these games during the tournament?
In her same kind of way,
special way.
Undescribable. Singing at the top of her lungs, dancing as much as she can. Just being a loud presence, every minute before the game, during the game, after the game, just a very consistent person in her energy. So
I feel like if I was her mother growing up, she would not be allowed to drink Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Unless it was at 9 a.m. because then it would wear off, by maybe midnight. But yeah.
All right, I'm curious to know your guys' mindset because you go back to last year, you were in the conference championship game, heartbreak, right, to FGCU. At any point, whether it's sitting in the hotel before the Conference USA Championship or right before the game, do you think back to that at all? Like whether as a motivator or as a, man, you don't get to get these chances that often. We have to take advantage.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think about that at all as you prepared to go into this one?
Yeah, definitely. So actually the day before, we kind of like to do these like mental imagery exercises because it's good to like get yourself in the right mindset and like visualize. And so one of our like kind of prompts from our coach was like, think back to this like last year's game and like for the like returning players, like any championship you've been in, and like kind of like reflect on that with the younger players and tell them like what you've learned from, like what was good from that game, what was bad from that game, and like so that like any emotions you felt, they can kind of feel that too and be like know what to expect and not be like taken back by what could happen. So
wow, we've got to tell Joe Yock about that.
Yeah.
You know, doing that before the podcast
yeah.
maybe sometime.
How sweet was this? Do you think even more so because of what you guys went through last year, being so close to get the win this season?
No, yeah, it was definitely sweet, and it was awesome not to have to go into overtime and PKs. As you can imagine, both fatigue and just mental, it's just so great. So we were definitely just pushing to do what we could to try to avoid that and just learn from our mistakes. So yeah, it was great.
Now, I guess this is the first Conference USA Championship any team has
in the
won. Is that right,
yeah.
Spencer? Yeah, I was looking at him. Yeah,
First
one
ever.
So you made history.
Yeah.
More so than
That
just for
is
your
so
program.
neat.
You have now made Liberty history. You set the tone for everybody else. Everybody else has to try to follow this now.
Yeah.
I am just so excited. I mean, this thing has to weigh more than you, Rachel.
No, it's close.
Yeah.
It is. Wow, look at that.
All right,
Beautiful.
so
we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
bigger
We're
trophy
taping
case.
this at a little before 11 a.m.
Yeah, 4
You guys
o'clock.
find out at 4 o'clock who you play.
Yes.
This is your chance. Call your shot. Is there anybody you
think?
want to play or who you think you might play?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm not too informed on that. I'm still living in yesterday.
That's right. That's right.
As you
I
should
honestly
be.
don't. I honestly don't know. I wish I could tell you, but I'm just happy with whoever.
Are you all
I'm just
getting
happy to
together
be
and watching it as a team? I
Yes, yeah, we're gonna go into our team room and I'll watch
great.
it and make it a big
That'll be
moment.
great.
So
That's
yeah.
exciting. Tell us about once you guys realized, you know, when that clock hit 0 that you guys were champions. Like, who was the first person you ran up to? Actually, before you answer that, when you were scoring like goals throughout the tournament, are you like still surprised? Because in your My Moment series, you're like, yeah, sometimes when I score a goal, I'm just like still shocked that the ball actually went in. Are you still reacting that way? Or are you like, you know, this is
what
pretty
I do.
common?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm still pretty shocked. I feel like it's like, because one minute you're just kind of like standing on the field, like, oh, just any other moment, and the next moment it's like, oh my gosh, that was
ball
such
in
a
the
big
back of the
deal.
net. Yeah.
Like it's never gonna not be surreal. Honestly, it's just such a great feeling.
Yeah, go through the excitement once you guys realized you were CUSA champions.
I guess just as that like clock was ticking down, it gets to under a minute, you're like, okay, like we've got this, and you're like, but play it cool, like it's okay, like it's not over, but like it is, and so it's just like so exciting. And then right when it like hits like 0, you're like, oh my gosh, and you just want to run. You don't even know where you're running. You just want to run and find somebody and hug them, and it's just so awesome. Like
That's
everybody's
so
just
neat.
nothing but excitement.
And then how was the trip home? Were you guys able to like wind down, or was it just like full go excitement?
It was definitely excitement though, like after like we went to the showers and stuff, and it was like all excitement. Everybody was like so hyped. The most energy you'll see from everybody.
Including Annie.
Yes,
Everyone was
well,
on Annie level.
Of course, yes. Everybody, even the people you wouldn't think, you found it in on that day. But then on the plane ride, you're able to like kind of wind down. I think everybody's able to like kind of like reflect and be like, dang, that just happened. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, best of luck as you guys move forward. You guys, you know it. You're dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody wants to see your name next to theirs when the bracket comes out. So congrats.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck. All Liberty will be watching you guys and be
Yes.
fired up to see where you're headed.
Who would you say, before we let you go, who would you say is like really the leader that carried you guys through, not just on the field play, but off the field this season?
I would say that our captains are honestly really good leaders. So that's Bridie, Lena, and Sadie. They're just very like confident, and like when, like I said earlier about the family thing, like they're willing to like call people out, but in a very loving way, and like you're not like taking it personal. You just know that that's what needs to get done. So yeah, they're just a very constant voice.
My big thing on the podcast, whenever a team drops a game, is like there's lessons in losing. Do you think that you guys hit a point in your season, because you guys were off such a fiery start, and then I believe that first loss, New Mexico
got you.
State.
Yeah, right, it was them.
What do you think that did to turn you guys, like, you know, or maybe not a wake-up call necessarily, but what do you think that loss taught you guys this season?
No, yeah, it definitely is a wake-up call. And you kind of need something like that to almost humble you and realize that you're not going to just step on the field and win. Like, it takes, like, all you've got every time. Like, so, like, nobody's too small, nobody's too big. Like, at the end of the day, soccer's soccer. It's a very, like, unexpected sport. So, yeah, it was just nice to kind of get that wake-up call early on, too, so that we were ready for the tournament and all the, like, high-stress situations. So, yeah.
I'm so excited for you guys.
One
4
last thing
o'clock.
before you go. Here's what we need you to do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hold this mug. Look at that camera. Now, you got a little cheat sheet on the back here. You say, Flame Central Podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage. Can you do it? You're talking to America right now.
Okay.
Okay, but look into that camera. Sell it, all right?
Okay.
Go for it anytime.
Flame Central Podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage.
Very good. Very good. First
You know,
time. Some
Joe
people take
is
more than
usually
one
on the
take.
show with us, and you'll be happy that he isn't here to, heckle
You
you.
actually
But
got to speak.
but-
You wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if you were
he would
here.
have talked about
feeling
how
blessed.
you should bring pack line defense to soccer. It'd have been really weird.
wow.
Done that.
Yeah, he took credit for field hockey doing that. But anyways, we usually do that with all of our guests, so he will be extremely excited that you were able to do that. So we'll clip that off for him. Rachel, lead us to an NCAA championship.
Let's
Let's go.
Stay hot.
We believe.
Stay hot.
Yes.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks
you
again
coming
for
on.
your time.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we did tell Rachel DeRuby you have to keep us in the loop with the pregame celebrations and record everything. We'll throw
Really
it on the
excited for them.
podcast.
The heartbreak of last year, losing in the conference championship.
CUSA is better anyways
so
to get that
glad
championship.
That they were able to get that win this season. That program has been really, really good the last few years. Yeah.
On fire. So hopefully they can make history. No women's soccer team has ever won an NCAA game.
Maybe this is it.
So this
is it.
might be it. They find out like we said at 4 p.m. This is probably going to get her out around that time. So be on the lookout for their social media. Okay, let's before we preview, we'll do bold predictions and preview ODU the same. So let's look into the men's basketball season, which tips off tonight. Why should we be excited, Matt Warner, now that Darius McGee is no longer?
Here's
a
what
player?
I did. Here's what I'm doing right here. I prepared a lot of stuff here, but you know what I'm gonna do, Emily? I'm going to speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Okay? I love doing that. That's my favorite move. I love doing that. Yeah.
I have something to say for a second because Matt is sitting here, and even though I'm stealing other people's content, at least it seems fresh. Matt, Matt Warner, can you speak at this presentation for us? Matt does that move.
That's my
every
favorite
single
move.
And then everyone goes, oh.
Yeah. It's so good.
Matt
It's
Warner,
so
you're
good.
so funny.
It's so good.
Okay,
All right.
well, go
Anyway,
ahead.
so here are just like 4 thoughts that came to mind. Just real quick. You saw me jot them down right before we started here. Just big picture things
I gave him
that
one.
I want to look at, that I'm looking at going into the season, which begins tonight. You mentioned it. Number 1, who replaces Darius McGee's production? You lose your all-time leading scorer. Who steps in? Few guys. Zach Cleveland. He's a prime candidate. Prime candidate. Right. It's got to be by committee. Zach Cleveland, I think he's a prime candidate to make a leap this year, become more of an offensive threat. We saw that down the stretch last season after he got back from all the mono stuff. Joseph Vinzant. You don't need 12 points a game from him. Boy, if you got 7 or 8, that would be a huge improvement and helps carry the load. Here's my guy, though, and my pick to lead this team in scoring, and that's Caden Matheny, the transfer from Bowling Green. I think he's going to be a really good offensive player. Not get you 24 a game or whatever like McGee, but I think he'll get you 14, and then the rest of the group can kind of help fill that void. Here's something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. There is a little bit of a size concern with this team. You talk about losing Darius McGee for obvious reasons. You also lost Blake Preston from a year ago. And while he didn't score 20 a game, he gave you a 6'10 frame that could bang down low if you ran into a team that had a big body. You don't have that. In terms of just the guys that are going to be getting consistent minutes, we believe, you don't have anybody taller than 6'7". Now, you've got 4 guys that are 6'7", but you don't have that one big that can go in there and defend in the post. How often will you run into a guy that's the 6'10", go-to?
Maybe not a ton. Games or later
maybe not a ton,
yeah.
But there are going to be some matchups where you're like, boy, that lack of size is probably going to show up. So that's
before you get to your next point, what I found interesting that Joseph Vinzant, looking at the size on the other end, like guarding like smaller guys like Colin Porter and Matheny. He's like, it's really difficult to guard those guys that are smaller because they're like center of gravity being lower. It's so much more difficult. So it's helped him improve as a defender because he's used to guarding them so much in practice. But I find that interesting that for the other team that may not be used to guarding smaller guards and stuff like that, that could be an advantage in the smaller size department for Liberty. But that's just looking at the glass half full.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you talked about defense because that is another thing that I'm wanting to look at, and that's defense off the bench for the Flames. I think the starting unit will be really good. Remember, Zay Warfield also not back. Now, say what you want about his offensive game, which there wasn't much to say. Defensively, there wasn't a huge drop-off when Van Zandt left the court and Warfield came on.
Right.
Now you're looking at, I imagine, Brody Peebles, Xander Yates. I would still put Shiloh on the bench to start Cleveland. We'll see what Richie McKay decides to do. But
oh, really?
That's what I would be.
Okay, so give me your starting five.
So my starting five would be Caden Matheny, Colin Porter, Kyle Rode, Joe Van Zandt, and Zach Cleveland. And I think Shiloh Robinson
off the bench
was better off the bench a year ago when they started Blake Preston. So I would keep him coming off the bench. And then you have Brody Peebles off the bench and Xander Yates, the transfer from Creighton, coming off the bench. That would be my top 8.
I wonder what Shiloh thinks if he's coming off the bench, because he's fifth year, right?
Yeah.
He's fifth year senior. So, but I feel like if anybody is going to swallow their pride, so to say, of coming off the bench, it would be Shiloh.
Yeah, and McKay has made it. I mean, he's always said, "Listen, it's not about who starts, it's about who finishes."
You're going to get your minutes.
You're going to get. He'll get his opportunity certainly. But with that bench group, we know Shiloh's a really good defender. But in terms of on the perimeter, it's going to look a little bit different. So I'm curious to see, does Xander Yates, who I think is a really good offensive player, can he play defense at the level that Richie McKay is hoping? Brody Peebles, he's always good for taking a charge a game. He has a real good knack for that. But need to continue to see him develop. So the defense is there. And then last thing for me, and it's going back to the defense as well, is the pack line. We've seen when teams are exposed to it for the first time, I feel like it outperforms what we even expect. Richie McKay took over this program. They were picked dead last in the Big South at the time by a mile. The pack line defense, something a lot of these teams hadn't seen, had them outperform the projections by a ton. You go to ASUN. What do? You reel off, 3 straight ASUN championships, and that defense was just suffocating. It took people a while to kind of start getting comfortable, if anyone ever got comfortable with it. So I'm curious to see now in Conference USA, does this defense, does it take the league a while to respond to it and figure it out? So I'm curious to see if that kind of helps Liberty, especially in year number 1, where you're trying to figure out No McGee, all that stuff. Does this defense really kind of carry them in year 1 in the CUSA?
Yeah, and as far as the guys learning, the new guys on the team, the longer you're in the pack, Coach McKay says it all the time, the better you get it. Yeah. So
Can't wait. It's going to be a blast.
It's so weird, because I'm like, hold on, basketball, we'll get to you. Yeah, we're in the middle of some big stuff with football, but I am really, really excited to get back on the hardwood tonight. Let's talk men's soccer, by the way, lost in the Ohio Valley Conference tournament. So their season is over. Field hockey.
Lost in the championship of the Big East. We won't make any jokes. We won't make any jokes about the ODU situation.
Now I know.
But
not.
Their season's not done.
Season not done. At-large bid.
At-large bid. Huge for them.
Number 12, Syracuse in the Sweet 16. Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about the breakdown. ODU is actually facing Maryland. So remember, Maryland is a team that back in 21, when we went to the national championship game, that's who Liberty beat, in overtime, double overtime in the Final Four to go to the national championship game. And then Maryland came back for some revenge and took out the Flames in the Sweet 16 last season. When you listen back to Nikki Parsley-Blocker and why she was like, we need to figure out something different to do, and that's why they instilled the pack line defense for field hockey, it was because of this Maryland team. So it'll be interesting. I think that this is a positive, is what I'm getting to, long story short. A good draw for the Flames to not face Maryland, because that's been a really tough team. Obviously, Syracuse will be difficult to get past as well. But I think this loss, I remember doing the My Moment segments with some of the field hockey girls, and they were saying, we lost in the Big East championship, I think the national championship run year. I want to say.
You're testing my field hockey knowledge.
I know. I feel like I went to one field hockey national championship run, and now I feel like I want to use my red shirt. Yeah. But yes, it will be interesting to see if the Flames will be able to get back on track to get back to that national championship
They're
game.
playing it at Duke, right? They're the host in this, quad, whatever you want to call it. So if Liberty gets past Syracuse, probably play Duke. If you move on to the Final Four in the championship, you know where it's played.
UNC?
It's at UNC. Where has Liberty had
The most
more success than probably
anyone.
any other program in the past however many years?
Yeah.
It's been Liberty at UNC.
I know, that's
so
good
you
news.
find your way there, you're feeling pretty comfortable.
Yeah, so we'll see what Nikki Parsley Blocker and the girls will be able to do to wrap up this tournament play. That starts, I'm sorry, I didn't write that
10th,
down.
I think it's Friday, right?
Friday.
Is that the 10th?
So
Yeah.
we'll keep you in the loop with that. All right, looking back at some of the CUSA games this past week, Liberty obviously took down La Tech.
Yeah.
South Carolina, Jack State. I used to be like, oh my gosh, Sam Houston, y'all are like, I love y'all. Now my heart is in for Jack State. Like, y'all are so good. And I just think that it's such, unfair, like, ruling for the NCAA to not allow them to play in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
Or, hopefully they get that bowl bid. They really were giving it to South Carolina. I thought that they were going to pull it out. They ended up losing 38-28. Sam Houston, as we said, got their first victory in FBS play over Kennesaw State. New Mexico State. Diego Pavia is not messing around. He is ready to come back to the mountain for that conference championship. They took down Middle Tennessee 13-7, and Western Kentucky ended up pulling out one over UTEP.
I think Western Kentucky
21-13 was the final on that
they
one.
had like 12 passing yards at the half. They ended up with like 100 passing yards in the game. That is not what they expect. They end up running the ball pretty well.
Are they seeing more injuries or something?
I don't know, but
their season
it was a struggle. So it comes down next week, right? New Mexico State, WKU, the winner, the inside track to face Liberty. And, boy,
3:30.
Western Kentucky has to feel like they are just kind of limping into that game with the way that they've been playing here.
Yeah, and New Mexico State, I don't know their at-home versus road record, but I feel like they are just on a roll. 5 straight wins.
Yeah.
That'll be really, really interesting to see how that one shakes out. 3:30 kick, so I might have to, you guys will have to be updating us on that score
we'll be
throughout the
keeping an eye out.
broadcast. So obviously Liberty outside of conference play hosting Old Dominion this week. La Tech is hosting Sam Houston. FIU's on the road at Middle Tennessee. And then the game of the week really in the CUSA is that New Mexico State Western Kentucky game. Okay, let's preview a little Old Dominion. What can you tell me about, what are they, the Monarchs?
Monarchs, yeah, that's good. That's a good start. Their mascot's the Monarch. This is a really, really good team. They're 4-5 right now, but think about some of these losses.
Mm-hmm.
They lost against Wake Forest by 3, right? That was second game of the year, and then the last 2 games they played against James Madison on the road, they lost by 3. Then this past Saturday, hosting Coastal Carolina, they led that game late. Like they were up in the fourth quarter. They went up 24-21 with 1:24 left. They ended up giving up a touchdown with 23 seconds left to lose the game. So this is a team that feels like they should have won their last 2. So it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either they come in just ticked off and they play some really good football, or they let those losses linger and they don't show up really locked in and focused like they should be. Either way, though,
I have a feeling they're going to be showing up.
Very much good enough to come into Liberty and knock them off. So this is going to be a really good test. Liberty has pretty well dominated this series since moving to the FBS. Remember, the first ever game at the FBS level for Liberty was against ODU, and Liberty just worked them over. It wasn't even a ball game. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what this series looks like. Liberty won this game last year, 38-24 down there. But they're definitely capable. Got a couple of good running backs. Their quarterback was a transfer, I think from Fordham. He came with their new offensive coordinator. So they're better than they were a year ago, and they're certainly good enough to give Liberty all they want.
One stat that sticks out to me is they've allowed 46 sacks this season, and only
maybe that's what the doctor ordered for Liberty, right?
Exactly.
Maybe that's
so
just what they need.
that might be my bold predictions. So don't even try to steal on that, Warner.
All right.
Do we want to look at some bold predictions? I know Joe Yock isn't here, so I think this is what I think, and I will confirm with Jeff Snell, right? The scoring system expertise. If you're not here, you can't win.
No, that's not it. I got Joe's pick. He texted me. Can I go over last week? Snell scoring system.
Let's do it.
Got it from Jeff. I split again. You and I tied this week. So we share a point. So second straight week I've done that. So right now the standings are because I had it 38-24 Liberty. You had it
can't win at all.
38-17. Jeff asked if I was hoping that.
Wait, what was my score prediction? 38-17, right?
38-17. Yep.
So what was your score prediction?
38-24. So yeah, we split. So you and Joe are both tied with 3.5 points on the year, if you will. I have 2. So you guys are doing fine here. So you're leading the way right now in our overall standings.
I am winning everything. It is really difficult to just be this good.
It is really annoying, I can tell you that. All right, you want to jump into bold predictions for this year?
Yes, let's do it. So I'm going to say Liberty is getting 4 sacks, and they will have their 4th straight game with over 300 rushing yards.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And what's your total? Or your
My
score?
score? Okay, so they are averaging 24 points
boy,
a
we're doing
game. The
math.
opponent they're allowing 26 points a game.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to say 35-17.
35-17 LU. Okay. Joe sent me only a score. He went with 35-28 LU. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm obviously saying LU.
Yep.
Just need to get that over.
I'm going to say a lot closer, lower scoring, which I've done that a few times and it never turned out.
Oh,
right.
yeah, maybe I do want it to be
No,
closer.
No.
I do this every
you do
week.
this every week. You've already committed. 27-24 Liberty, and I have a Brylan Green interception to seal the win late. That's my bold prediction.
Wow,
So,
we're getting like
Here's the way I
real
see it
bold.
playing out. Old Dominion, ball late, final drive, driving it down. Round the 20, or we save this clip. Round the 20-yard line or so, trying to fit one in over the middle. Brylan Green steps in front, picks it off, ball game. So that's the way it's going to go. Still come out and watch.
We are going
Still come
to
watch the game, but I feel like that's the way it's going to go.
If you're not watching, tune
Yeah.
into ESPN Plus because
Yeah.
we will be leading the broadcast. Really excited to get back on the sidelines and be on the call with these guys. Mailbag, we did have a great email from Bill. However, Bill, hear me out. It's so good. We're going to stage this entire thing to have
We want Joe to be here to hear it,
Doug,
too.
you need to start prepping your voice now because it's a very long email.
We're going to have somebody read it.
Yeah, we're going to have
It was
someone
so
read
good.
it because if we read it, it just isn't as effective. We need Joe to be here too because I need him to hear this. You can't rely on him actually listening to
He's not watching
the
this.
Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova Mortgage. So get out to Liberty Arena tonight for the men's basketball game. Get out to Williams Stadium for the game on Saturday. Kick is at 1. And we'll get to that mailbag next week. But we need to do Flames Fantasy. Do we need to
I do have a couple
Flames
of mailbags
Fantasy?
this week if you
Do
want.
we need to do
if
Flames
we want to
Fantasy
stall
standings
Flames
anymore?
Fantasy.
Do we?
Yeah.
Just you and me. We don't even waste our time on Joe's team because I can't. I need to start writing my speech.
All right, let's do Flames Fantasy, and then we'll do the couple mailbags we got.
And then we got to roll.
Yeah, Joe this week, he was led in scoring by Noah Frith, who had that big touchdown catch. So
we all
highest
know that
score
Noah
he's
scored.
had, 36.1 points for Joe this week for a total of 216. That's his best week I think he's ever had.
216. I think I did that week 3.
Yeah, you scored 60 points, 60.4. Here's the thing. I'm starting to get on Joe's bandwagon of we've got to just like change players or something. Quentin Cooley put up 31 points by himself. This is
more than
outrageous.
Joe's. That's more than Joe. You need to talk to Willie Corn
This
about
is outrageous, I know.
But
He had
offensive
31.
coordinators then.
CJ Daniels had over 15 points. So you scored 60.4. You're at 385.3. I scored 40.3 points, led by Tyron Dupree, 13.5. Aaron Bedgood, 17.2. I have 313.4.
You know what's crazy is that Joe had the first pick, and he was
Right.
so. I
that
wish
was a
we
reach.
could
That
have
was a little bit of a
this like magic ball to show us what Von Blue would have done if he didn't get injured, because that would have been really interesting. But it's just like crazy that you don't take Quentin Cooley with your first overall
That's
pick.
true,
So
that's
that
true.
was your first mistake.
Let me just
Joe
say a
Young.
little behind the scenes, break this down for you. At halftime of the Liberty game Saturday, feeling pretty good. Aaron Bedgood had a couple of touchdowns. I text Emily and I say, do you hear footsteps?
And
And
I'm
she's like, what? And then I remind her that Liberty was playing that night. And no, but I'm like, I'm coming. I'm feeling good. And she's
And
like,
then I sent a text to Quentin Cooley, and
yeah,
I'm
at
like,
halftime.
come
She's
on.
like, yeah, that'll be fine. Quentin will score like 3 touchdowns in the second half. Well, he didn't do that, but he ran for 178 yards or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh,
and she
I
ends up
love
blowing
it.
our doors off.
I
so,
love it. All
whatever.
right, so mailbag, even though Joe's not here.
Yeah, real quick.
Mailbag.
That was.
That's my Joe
I'm
gut.
uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with this.
Oh my gosh.
flamecentral@liberty.edu. That's the email address. flamecentral@liberty.edu. Send us any questions, comments you have. One question coming to us from Scott. He's like,
Scotty.
are pass interference calls getting more inconsistent? He goes, am I just a fan that feels like they're all going against Liberty? Like, what's going on here? I don't know.
I don't know, but I do think that they need to use better judgment in terms of like the ball has to be catchable.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I can't stand it because I almost think it was like against La Tech that I'm like that ball wasn't catchable. So I don't think that should have been pass interference on one flag this past week. I think it was.
I was very concerned that Tyron Dupree was going to get ejected for targeting.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And honestly, it may have been worse than the previous week when he did. So I was shocked when he didn't. I'm glad, obviously. You hate to see that.
But
boy, I thought he was going to get it. And I think he did too. There was a shot they had on the game of him watching the video board, and he was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
So fortunate for the Flames.
Hopefully he works on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But and we see this more in the NFL, I feel like. But my bigger argument and issue is like, can we sack the quarterback anymore without getting roughing the passer? Like, I get it. We need to keep the quarterback in the game, and that's really important. But like, okay, here you go. Here you go. Oh,
okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Like, come on, please. Like, we don't need that flag thrown every single time some guys get into the quarterback.
Question from David. He wants to know, and we touched on this, I think, a little last week, but would you rather go undefeated and win? No, hold on. Would you rather go undefeated and win a lower level bowl game or undefeated and lose than in a New Year's Six? And I think we all take New Year's Six.
Yeah, I think you take New Year's Six just from the publicity and like for recruiting and stuff like that.
For sure. All right, that's it for the mailbag.
All right, thanks guys for listening or watching the Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova Mortgage.
One last thing. I want to shout out the 4th through 6th grade Bears flag football team in the Impact League here in Lynchburg, winning a championship on Saturday morning in a thriller. So to the Bears, I want to say congrats, boys.
Matt,
we brought home a title.
who's the coach of that?
I'm the assistant coach / director of player personnel, and we were able to bring it home. Narrow 8-6 victory, able to get the title. I meant to bring the trophy in here with me. I have it in my car. So props to the Bears.
The director of player personnel.
Director of player, self-proclaimed. Yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah. Okay, so what was the moment of the game?
Well, it was a 2-point conversion attempt that would have tied it by the other team. And unfortunately, they had all 3 of their players open, and all 3 of them went for the ball, and it ended up falling to the turf. So it was too good of a play design is what it was, because they were all wide open. We got a little lucky. But hey, great game, great season. Bears, there you go.
Congrats. The Bears are, one Bears team.
That's the only first time since '85 they've done anything. So yeah, and we were pretty fired up.
All right, thanks again for listening and watching. Be sure to be on the call or tune in to men's basketball tonight if you're not going to the game, and then we're back on the call for football. We'll see you guys next time.